Smackdown, September 26th, 2025. Oh, brother. There was some interesting things here. One really good thing here. But for the most part, Smackdown needs help. It really does. We start the show with a boy, Paul Heyman, teasing about what he should talk about. What should he discuss? And he went through the list of names, Seth Rollins, Braun Breaker, Bronson Reed, Brock Lesnar. Cody Rhodes interrupted and said, yeah, he knows that Paul likes to stir things up, and he wants to know about Brock Lesnar. He wants to know whether Paul Heyman is an oracle, a wise man, or an advocate. Paul called himself the GOAT and said that when Brock Lesnar is near, everyone is in danger. But Brock Lesnar is not there, and Cody is still in danger because here comes Bronson Reed and Braun Breaker. Cody ends up fighting these two guys, and somehow, someway, Super Cody is able to fight both of these men off, at least for a little while, and then they get the upper hand on him and beat him up. That did not look good for the Bronze, to have Cody Rhodes by himself beat them up. I didn't like that. Cody Rhodes has questioned Paul Heyman's loyalty, and I like that angle. That was fine. And Paul is part of the Seth Rollins thing, so it makes sense. The Bronze are scared off because Randy Orton comes out. Okie dokie. So Randy Orton and Cody versus Braun and Bronson. Likely going to take place next week on SmackDown or something like that. So that's fine. You're getting Braun Breaker to work with some more guys. And Randy Orton's back in the mix. Speaking of Randy Orton, his wife was on social media, a fan, initially talked about all the things that Randy Orton missed out on, such as the ESPN show, such as the Netflix premiere, and some other big events that Randy was not a part of. And his wife was agreed with the fan that Randy was underutilized. I think these people need to talk to Randy. I really do think they need to have a conversation with Randy, because I'm almost certain Randy Orton is like, what are you talking about? You want me to do more? You want me to work more? Why would I work more? But as a person who is a fan of Randy Orton, you can say that. Randy hasn't been as integral a part of the show as you would think, given that he worked with Triple H and worked under Triple H boss as long as he has. You would think Randy Orton would be a more important part of the show, but he's treated a lot like AJ Styles is treated, and people have complained a lot about AJ Styles, where Randy wins more than AJ Styles does. He seems to be at or near the top of the card more than AJ Styles is, but Randy seems like an afterthought, and it started the moment he returned and then was upstaged by CM Punk. It started immediately, right there. And it felt like Randy Orton was not an important part of the show from that point. They even did the old Randy Orton is leering at the championship thing again, which they've been doing for a year and a half. They've been doing this for a long time. This whole Randy Orton is considering turning on Cody. And it would have made a lot more sense if it was Randy that turned on Cody earlier this year instead of John Cena. John Cena. Oh, God. It would have made a lot more sense for it to be Randy. But Randy and Cody working together is fine. I don't hate that. I don't hate that Braun and Bronson versus Randy and Cody idea. I don't mind it. The Street Profits defeated Carmelo and Miz in a number one contenders match for the tag team championships. Match was kind of mid. It is what it is. The Street Profits, their storyline is that they're still got the same goal and nothing's changed between the two of them, even though they have their disagreements. Meanwhile, Miz and Carmelo is a situation where the Miz wants to be partners and Carmelo doesn't. And this shows during the match where Miz tries to take glory away from Carmelo and ends up putting himself in danger. Carmelo was going for his big finish and Miz tagged himself in. And then near the end of the match, Carmelo Hayes had a clear shot to stop the pinfall on The Miz, and he just let it happen. So this is the story that they're telling with Carmelo Hayes, is that he wanted out of this tag team. So now them losing the number one contenders match means they don't have to team anymore. So I don't understand why we slow rolling this thing. Like I don't understand why it needed to be slow rolled for weeks at a time when, you know, you could just aggressively tell Miz you don't want to be his partner anymore. Why is everybody so passive aggressive? I don't understand that. I mean, this show would move a lot faster if people just said what they felt. You know, if people just behaved like human beings would behave, like a character like a Carmelo Hayes would behave. A character like Carmelo Hayes wouldn't be passive aggressively just kind of going along with it. He would just be like, nah, that ain't me. It ain't what I do. You know, I don't understand why he just can't do that. Why can't he just do that? But okay, they're trying to build some drama, and drama is how people attach to characters. But it would be nice if Carmelo Hayes had a character, which he doesn't. What is his character, by the way? Funny, he goes to NXT, he remembers what his character is. He comes to Smackdown, nobody has no idea what his character is. Julia and Kiana James defeated Mia Yim and B-Fab. Okay, this was a thing that occurred. Julia has no opponents because she's steamrolling everybody or nobody is believable in the first place. So let's move on. Alexa Bliss and Charlotte Flair are confronted by Zarya and Sol Ruka, which I actually was interested in this. Charlotte Flair said that they didn't earn it. They mocked Charlotte for nepotism, saying that she almost never earns things, while Charlotte says she can't even wave her hands and get a championship match anymore. You gotta earn it. Then Sol Ruka tries to apologize for Zarya being so, I guess, aggressive. And they don't want to hear that. Alexa Bliss tells them to go prove themselves first. And then they can come back for a tag team title. I like this too, because I want Zarya and Sol Ruka out of this. I want these two to break up. So them having issues is good. I've never wanted a tag team to break up as much as I want Zarya and Sol Ruka to break up. I want them separated immediately. And I don't know, it just hit me one day, like maybe it's the character. It's like the character that we was introduced with Zarya should not be in a tag team, you know, even as it's the exact same thing as I had with Megan Bayne in AEW. Is when you have a character that could be unique in the division, you don't put them in a tag team, especially some cutesy tag team where they do gay baiting TikToks. Like, come on, man. We don't need that. We really don't need. There's a bunch of other girls to do gay baiting TikToks with. Why do you have to do it with this girl? Next, Drew McIntyre came out in a foot bondage thing, a cast, a boot. I don't know what you call it. Complaining about, I got Cody beat. The referee screwed me. Exactly what I said he was going to say when I reviewed the pay-per-view. He said he forgives the referee, but he blames Cody and that Cody is corrupt and there's all corruption. Then Nick Aldis came out there, said that he didn't want to hear this. He don't want to hear any excuses. And that boot did not come from WWE Medical, which Drew McIntyre claims is, it might as well be Cody Medical. This company is everybody's on Cody's side. Then here comes Jacob Fatu, who told Drew McIntyre to shut his crybaby ass up. He's been crying every week. Then Drew McIntyre got mad, headbutted a Samoan, which was a mistake, and got himself beat up. So Drew McIntyre and Jacob Fatu, I like this feud. I like this idea. I don't like the fact that this is basically a stopgap before they loop Drew back in with Cody again. Because the idea is that Cody is now distracted by the whole Seth Rollins thing, Crown Jewel, all that. This is not likely going to be a long-term story that's meant to elevate Jacob Fatu. This is just Cody is going to be busy for a while. Here's Jacob Fatu. And that doesn't necessarily help Jacob Fatu, which it should. It's supposed to, anyway. Drew McIntyre is going to be in Highlander, the new remake of Highlander. I'm skittish about modern remakes because modern remakes are usually extremely bad. The original Highlander movie is tremendous. The Highlander TV show with Adrian Paul is mostly pretty good as well. I do not suggest the other Highlander movies. The Highlander seems like a movie that would be perfect for Drew McIntyre. It's filled with like Scottish lore and stuff like that, so it could be very cool. And he spent all that time carrying a sword. They had me carrying a sword from 2020 to 2022. All I did was carry a sword. So now he's going to get to carry a sword for a little bit more money in a movie. That ought to be nice. Drew McIntyre is working his way up the ladder towards Hollywood, which ought to be great until he actually breaks through, and then he's never around like the rest of them. Next, Sami Zayn is challenged by Javon Evans. Javon Evans in the United States Championship Open Challenge. Excellent match between these two guys. The United States Open Challenge is a simple concept. Sami Zayn goes out there. A guy comes out. This guy gives the champion his best shot. He hits all his biggest moves, even though I don't think Javon Evans hit everything that he could have. And then the champion wins. So Haluva kick, Blue Thunder Bomb, Sami Zayn wins. That was never in doubt. But man, what a performance by Javon Evans. Absolutely excellent performance here. I love this match. This is pretty good. I will tweak things a little bit. Look, Sami Zayn is doing the right thing with the United States Championship Open Challenges. It has turned around people that was booing him and people who didn't like him. It is starting to turn that back around because as a gesture of goodwill, he's going out there and putting on some really good matches. The problem that I'm having with this United States Championship Open Challenge thing is that all of his opponents so far have been baby faces. So he's been wrestling nothing but baby faces so far. And I know there was the same thing with John Cena, that a lot of his opponents when he was doing the Open Challenge were baby faces. He wrestled a few heels, but most of them were baby faces. But I also think that you can make this interesting by there being a storyline element to it. And I think there was a storyline element to it when it was Carmelo Hayes, because Carmelo Hayes had something else going on. So it was like, okay, you could always go back to that. It's likely that Melo could win, or you could do something in the match where Miz tries to help Melo win or something like that. But when it's just Javon Evans, he's not going to win. When it's just Phoenix, Phoenix is not going to win. So I would work on that element of it. But this is SmackDown. They don't really have a strong mid-card. Their mid-card is extremely weak. Extremely weak. So as a one-off, this match was fine. As part of the canon of the United States Championship, it was fine. But for me, again, I prefer matches to have a little bit more story attached to them. Thankfully, I can enjoy a match with no story. But for a lot of other people, they're going to say, what's the point of this? We know Sami Zayn is going to win. Why go into this? And as a match for TV, again, I grew up at a time where guys like 1-2-3 Kid and Justin Hart Bradshaw got title shots. So I'm not tripping on that. So let's move on. Solo Sikoa, he did a video package for JC Mateo. Talked about him being an Olympian, how he checked Jacob Fatu and Jacob got out of line, and JC Mateo believes in Solo Sikoa. He's loyal to Solo Sikoa, and he's going to reward his loyalty. So it seems like they're deciding that, okay, the MFTs suck. So we're going to take them off TV for a couple of weeks, and we're going to introduce all the individuals one at a time. They've been on TV for months. They have been on TV for months, and you're just now telling us whatever we need to know about JC Mateo? Why? Where is this going? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Where is this going? Where is this headed? Now, some people will say it's headed with Solo and the MFTs eventually challenging Sami Zayn. Maybe one at a time, they challenge Sami Zayn, and then they get the belt back. Oh, is that interesting? Is that what was said in these promos? None of that was said. Well, Solo's promo said he's going to get the title back. But that was 3 weeks ago. What that got to do with JC Mateo and Tongaloa, who, the guys he's talked about so far? I don't know, man. Look, I'm asking too many questions. Let's move on. Chelsea Green, she offers Nia Jax a spot in her agency or whatever, Secret Hervis or whatever, and Nia Jax ripped up the application. I hasn't mentioned it so far, but there was talk about Piper Niven being injured and that her injury might be career threatening. They haven't said what the injury is, but whatever it is, it's pretty bad that they're actually looking to replace her. And if she can return and she can come back, it's going to be an obvious thing where she's going to have a problem with being replaced. But hopefully she is returned as something better than what she is now. But I'm not a huge fan of Piper Niven, but I never liked the idea of somebody, especially as young as she is. I think she's been doing this for a while, but it's not like she's 40 or anything like that. It's not like she's like 42 or something like that. So it sucks that she will end up finally getting some spotlight in WWE, only to have her career ended shortly thereafter. Damian Priest is harassed by Kit Wilson again, who talked about Damian Priest's male privilege and his toxic masculinity. Damian Priest scared him off again, and Kit Wilson tripped over a wheelchair. I like. The only problem I got is this Kit Wilson guy came back a little too soon after being thrown through a wall. But him still being on the same tip and even being even more ridiculous is fun. This brings me joy because it's ridiculous. I like ridiculous things for the most part, within reason. Let's put asterisks on those things. So Damian Priest turns around. He gets kicked in the head by Aleister Black again. So then there's that. Aleister Black. Damian Priest, they're slow rolling this thing too. Super slow rolling this. Jesus Christ. Main event time. Jade Cargill and Nia Jax challenge Tiffany Stratton for the women's championship. And the match itself was not that much. It wasn't good. It wasn't that great. It wasn't much. Obviously, this is the 2nd year anniversary of Jade Cargill signing with WWE. I think it popped up on my social media that it's almost 2 years to the day where she signed to WWE. And she's still challenging for the title. She's still growing as a character. She's over. But when you look at this match and you say, why is Nia Jax in this match? Okay. There's no reason for it. There's no reason at all why Nia Jax is here. She's here to take the pin, and then she didn't even do a good job of that. This match, of course, fell apart when Jade Cargill got busted open inadvertently. Her head hit the stairs and cut her eyebrow. She was bleeding pretty heavily. Imagine how badass it would have been if she'd have won the title covered in blood. That would have been great. Especially for somebody whose character doesn't really revolve around that. It would have been badass. Instead, the referees distract her. And they're trying to work the cut like it's boxing or something like that to lessen the blood. And it leaves Tiffany and Nia in the ring solo to do their thing. Finally, Jade Cargill gets back in there. She's in there with Nia Jax. She does the Boss Man Slam, which they call the Eye of the Storm, which is probably a better finisher for her than the Jaded is. She goes for the pin. Tiffany Stratton drop kicks Jade. Jade rolls out of the ring. Tiffany gets atop Nia Jax. 1, 2. Nia doesn't kick out, and the referee doesn't count 3. Everybody looks stupid. This is amateur hour. All right. Absolute amateur stuff. I always believed, and this probably was a Vince McMahon thing, that if the wrestler doesn't kick out, you pin them. That's how it works. If the shoulders don't come off the mat, go ahead and count the 3. You can't blame the referee. But I guess they're changing these things. And now the referee is going to pull up when they know it's not the finish. And who knows, maybe it was supposed to be the finish. It don't even matter. Everybody in this situation except Tiffany and Jade should know better. Okay? The referee is kind of new too. She ain't been around forever. But she's a trained referee. She should know better. Nia Jax has been in the business for almost 10 years or more. She should know better. You at least kick out. Or at least count to 3. Jesus Christ. This was so embarrassing. And it marred the entire match. The match wasn't that great to begin with. And then when you have something like this in there, you're like, what the hell are these people doing? What are they doing? This is ridiculous. Tiffany Stratton hits the prettiest moonsault ever and wins the match. So there's that. A disastrous end to Smackdown. Absolute disastrous. And there's nothing good on the horizon, which is unfortunate. Well, there are some decent things on the horizon. You know, Cody and Randy versus the Bronze. That's fine. Jacob Fatu and Drew McIntyre. That's fine. But most of this show is nothing. You know, it's absolutely nothing. The mid-card is so goddamn weak that you have all these mid-card titles and they have no purpose. And we talk about this every week, that these championships need to have purpose. They need to have some steam. You need to put some people in there. You have to actually use some talent, which means that you actually have to shorten some of these matches. 1 or 2 matches going 10 minutes is perfectly fine. There's no excuse. There's no reason why Julia and Kiana James versus B-Fab and Mia Yim needed to be multiple segments. It didn't need to be. B-Fab is goddamn rookie. Julia is a killer. Why not have her beat B-Fab in like 2 or 3 minutes? You know, I know it's a tag match and you want to give Mia Yim a little bit more shine, but it's not necessary. It really isn't necessary. The Street Profits versus Miz and Carmelo Hayes went too long. We didn't need that. We could have told the same story in a shorter amount of time. The Street Profits have lost 99% of their aura, where they were a fun tag team before. Now they're just kind of there. And a lot of that comes from changing the theme song and changing how they look and changing their presentation, which Triple H did for a lot of teams and have done a great deal of damage to them. By changing theme songs and changing their presentation. I mean, it is what it is. Now they come across as like 2 regular guys instead of 2 superstar guys. So it's unfortunate. I can't say where's Jacob Fatu this week because he was there. And he was in a pretty high profile thing. So that was fine. But there's no future for this United States Championship thing outside of Sami Zayn just beating people. Unfortunately, there's no future for Phoenix as well. He wasn't featured on the show. He was on the show, but he was talking to Sami Zayn. Like, who's going to challenge for your title next? Like, why do you care? Shouldn't you be doing something? Look, Andrade leaving really threw his career in the bushes, but your inability to adapt, Triple H, is what got Phoenix in this position. Now everybody wants, just throw Phoenix and Penta together. Okay, so they could be a tag team that does nothing like all the other tag teams that do nothing. You know, this is ridiculous. What they're doing is absolutely ridiculous. All right, so this is edited Mongo here, which means I completed my review. And then I went on Twitter and I saw something that I felt like I had to address. And I probably would have addressed it earlier if my brain had worked like so many other people's brains apparently are working. So, Paul Heyman, during his promo, he says, you know, what do you want to talk about? You want to talk about Brock Lesnar, blah, blah, blah. He says, should we talk about the rumors and the conspiracy theories surrounding Brock Lesnar? Now, he made that comment. I did hear it in the moment, but I thought nothing of it because apparently I can follow context clues. I go on social media and I see that Fightful and a bunch of other people have clipped that comment out of context and posted it. And now all these people thinking they're mocking the Janelle Grant lawsuit. They're just making fun of it now. What are you talking about? They're never talking about Janelle Grant on television. Have you not been following the show? Well, it's clear that they're being disingenuous. And this is why I choose not to engage in a lot of this stuff. Because it's stupid. It's just plain stupid. Brock and Heyman did a segment on TV where Brock said we should talk. Heyman is with Braun and Bronson at the time. The next night at WrestlePalooza, Heyman shows up to introduce Brock Lesnar. So then there's a lot of talk about what's the relationship between Brock and Heyman. Later in the show, Cody says, am I talking to an oracle, a wise man, or an advocate? Basically, what is your relationship with Brock Lesnar? Is Brock Lesnar hanging out with Seth Rollins? What's going on here? That's the angle. That's what we're thinking. Because Paul has always had these different characters interacting with each other. Last year it was Punk and Roman. This year it's, Rollins and Brock and, etc. Never in my mind did I think they were making fun of the Janelle Grant lawsuit. Why? Because I don't think about that stuff. Why would they be mentioning that on TV? This is not even vague. Okay? Brock Lesnar is literally involved with Paul Heyman, and people are questioning what the relationship of those guys are. If you watch the show, people are like, are they getting back together? Are they reuniting? What's going on here? And he's saying, what about the conspiracy theories and the rumors around Brock Lesnar? That has nothing to do with the lawsuit. Not a damn thing. Nothing. And yet, I have to listen to these 100 plus IQ guys, at least they think they have 100 plus IQ, think that they're talking about this thing because they saw somebody else mention it. Most of these people, this is all they think about. So sure, they think about this stuff because they always thinking about this stuff. But they're never talking about this on TV. It is never a topic of conversation on television. Never. That would be stupid. This and your thoughts about that are stupid. It's embarrassing almost that wrestling fans like to talk about this shit. But then again, when you keep asking them, what did he do? He didn't do anything. Never even met the girl. Again. So it's ridiculous that they would be talking about this. What other conspiracy theories would they be talking about outside of Heyman and Brock's relationship? What else would they be talking about? Why would they be talking about that, by the way? Why would they be talking about that on TV? What benefit to the company or to storylines would they be having talking about that on TV? Are we going to talk about Brock Lesnar being wrapped up in this lawsuit, which he's not really, on television? To what end? Is he going to fight it? He's going to fight the lawsuit in there? He going to give the lawsuit an F5? He's not accused of anything. It doesn't make sense. And yet, the people that you follow, the people that you listen to, the people who you follow on Twitter, they're stupid enough to jump to that conclusion. It took a while for me to realize this, but it's a fact that when people talk about your diet, they're not just talking about the things that you eat. They should be talking about all the things that you consume. Things that you consume with your eyes and things that you consume with your ears. People need to watch their diet because there's a lot of terminally online, incredibly stupid people who don't know anything about the world. They have no context clues. They're just profoundly fucking stupid people. And they manage, because they have the same hobby as you, that they end up getting a whole lot of fans. But they're profoundly stupid people. The crazy thing is, it's not everybody, clearly. But it's a lot of the people who matter, who are really that stupid. That comment didn't even need to be clipped. But it was done for clicks. Because these sites like Fightful and WrestleNomics and Wrestling Observer, they're struggling. People are leaving these sites. So of course they're going to try to drum up. And then also, and this is a big problem, me being a capitalist and all, social media, Twitter especially, has monetized tweets now. So you're incentivized to take things out of context. You're incentivized to be salacious because it gets you more clicks, it gets you more views, you make more money. So again, watch your diet. When you see these ridiculous things, ask yourself, why would they be talking about that? What benefit would be to Paul to stand in the middle of the ring in front of all of these people and vaguely even hint at this lawsuit? It would not benefit his character. It doesn't benefit his storyline. It doesn't benefit Brock Lesnar. Why would they be doing that? That's because he isn't.